Hello and welcome back to the channel where we are building a video game from scratch using Love2d and Lua. We're hunting down this bug because when our stuff is equipped, we're supposed to render certain, if you could see the pixels, the blue pixels are off here. It's rendering blue pixels like up in his hair and on the side of his feet, and it's because we're detecting a right collision here, even though we're just next to the collidable object here, the pushable object. So I think what's happening here is we adjusted our player's atlas. Well, if we look at our player atlas here, we see that we don't go all the way to the edge. So there's one pixel on either side. That true AABB collision would render a collision even though it looks like the pixels aren't overlapping. So just like this, where, you know, it's saying we right collide is true, right collide false. So it's like it thinks we're right colliding with an object here, even though our pixels aren't touching. And it's because our player's actually one pixel off. So if we were this far away, we're not right colliding because we have that whole pixel buffer, which is the true end of our character. So we have it that way so that we and actually I'm still trying to figure out why it works here against a map object. So like we have these things called collidable map objects. That's stuff like a tree and a signpost and a water, so that we can't walk through it, right? And then we have the offset so that we can walk in front of it. See, our head is overlapping with the collidable map object, but we can't walk through it. So I'm a little confused as to why we can be within, you know, our one pixel can be touching here and not necessarily colliding, or actually, you know, it probably is actually deciding it is still a collision. If we were to go ask if we collide with that collidable map object. So I think what I want to try to do is just say, for our pushables, when we're cycling through our pushables and we're checking for the right collision or any direction of collision, I think we want to say only check that collision if we're holding an input that's like appropriate, right? Or if we're in the walk state and not idle state. Because if we're in the idle state, we should flush our right collision to false no matter what. So we're going to try to fix that today. And I don't know, it's been like 2 days of me trying to fix it, all in all. So we'll see if we can do it. There's a couple of different things here. We've got a pushable class, and we basically, we have different methods for actually pushing the stone. So like if we run our push direction method, it'll trigger an initiation for a push down, and in the update, or a push whatever, right? And then in the here, whatever push gets initiated, that's when we update our values. So I think we want to take a look in our walk state and see how we're checking for a legal push. You know, we only push down if there's a legal push just on the other side of our object that we're trying to push. If it can legally move down there, then we're going to push it down. So what's happening right here is we're triggering this and we're saying, okay, well, we do right collides with a map object, and this is in our pushables. See, we're cycling through our pushables, and we're cycling through our right collides. We're running our right collides map object on every method on every collidable pushable. And we're saying, okay, well, if we're right colliding with that pushable, go ahead and do your push timer. So I guess we are changing the animation if we collide and our direction is right. And then we clamp our X position so that we're in the appropriate spot. So what do we change here? Because we are already asking, and direction is just which direction we're facing. So I think that's the issue. Well, yeah, we'd only, if we're colliding and we're at a player direction. I think I'm getting confused with the idle state and the push state, or the walk state. So I think this is in the walk state, which is correct. Like, we're changing our animation when we're walking, but what we're not doing is I don't know, because it's not an issue when we're in idle, other than the fact that it's the wrong value for the collidable object, but we're not actually doing anything with that value, because we only do something with that value if we're in the walk state. If we're in the walk state and this is true, then we're going to increment our timer, and if it's past that threshold, it checks for a legal move. If it's legal, then it pushes it. And then here we're saying if we're walking and we collide and our direction is right, go ahead and change our animation to right. So I'm not exactly sure how to fix this. I'm going to fix Jimmy Cam real quick. Because the issue, let's see if we can diagnose the issue a little better. So the issue is we're rendering our overlay here. See, look at how his green overlay comes undone there. It's because it's rendering the green overlay for a push down. Which, why are we pushing down? Well, we're pushing down because the input is down and we're colliding with a collidable map object and our input is down. So I think the issue here, do we have a pushing value for our character? Because we're not, I'm pretty sure we have a dot pushing for our player. Here, look. Print pushing, player pushing. Yeah, let's do this. So instead of that right map collides, let's see if we're pushing. I don't believe we're pushing. So pushing false. Oh, see, we are pushing. So it thinks we're pushing because an input is held down and we're technically colliding with a pushable object, which just isn't accurate. I mean, it's accurate in the sense that we are colliding with it, but it's non-accurate in the sense that we don't want that behavior. So let's see when we enable this pushing and see if we can be a little smarter about it. We flush our pushing to false. I do it twice here, so that's unnecessary. But basically we're saying if we collide with a map object, then we're going to become pushing. And that's not right, because the left collides map object is it's not true AABB, but it's got I don't know, we squish in the left and right, and we squish in the top, and then the bottom is true AABB for a 2 pixel tall bounding box on the bottom of our player. So the issue is on the left and right collides, I'm pretty sure. Stream's crashing. I don't know. I kind of think we either need to write a different collides function for pushable objects, but I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me why it doesn't quite match up. because our player colliding with a collidable map object, not a pushable, is working fine and working as we expect. But what isn't working is the colliding with a pushable. So I don't get why that one is messed up. Working fine. So in my mind, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me to make a new collision function for pushables, because we want it to be doing the same thing, but we only want pushing to be true on a certain direction that we're colliding with. So like, we don't want pushing to be true if we're just right colliding, but we're not pushing right. Because pushing, let's see, and it's only in the walk state it's wrong. So in the walk state, it says we're pushing true, and it says that we're right colliding at this moment. So since right is not being held down, we shouldn't be turning to pushing. So I feel like if we're just more selective with the pushing, Boolean turn to true, then I think we can maybe fix this issue. So okay. So let's do our pushing, right? So if our player, see, and this is weird. I guess we have to cycle through our output list. Do we do any output list cycling in the update? No, wait. Yeah, no. Oh, we do it here. Okay. So here, yeah, here's the cycling for both the keyboard input and the touch input. So we can say if our player is left colliding with, see, and this, we have to cycle through all our pushables to check each pushable. So we can say if we're colliding, then our G player dot pushing is going to equal true. We'll try this, and you know what? We'll try this. Yeah, we'll try this maybe just for left and try it there first. So we have to cycle through all of our values in our pushables table. So our pushables table holds all the pushables, and this is in the walk state. It's, I'm forgetting right here. It's this scene view map row, map at, map row, map call, pushables table. So we'll cycle through those. Okay. Where is it? I did the old overwrite your buffer paste in Vim. So I forgot what this was. Okay. So we cycle through our pushables table, and we check collision. We check the appropriate side collision with any given pushable while the input is left. And then we update our X position. So we need to do this for every input, and we'll test it. We'll test it just with left, because pushing should not be true unless we're literally pushing left. Yeah, so now we're in our walk state and we're not pushing true. So that would or should fix our pixel issue for the overlay of our tunic. But we need to do this for every different colliding. So this is right collides. And if we're right colliding while the input is right, then our player is actually pushing. I think this is, not so great to do it like this, but I don't know what else to do. Part of me still wants to refactor. This is bottom collides. Part of me still wants to refactor all of our inputs, both keyboard and touch, to be into one master table, so that we don't have to go and do this for the output list and for the touch output list. I would like it to just, be one table we have to worry about, and then we don't have to do double work for every new feature that we're trying to add with keyboard or touch detection. And the further I put off that, the more difficult the refactor ultimately becomes. Yeah, I think part of me didn't want to do it because I didn't know how it would respond with a laptop with a touch screen. I thought if you were using that, it might screw something up, but I don't think that's a good enough reason to not do it. So let's just test the keyboard version here. I think it's okay. So we're looking for a pushing false in our walk state, and we're looking for it to be pushing true. Well, pushing should be true when we're actually pushing, which is not the case. If the value's up and we collide with something, is it getting set really fast and we just don't see it? Oh, I think it is. No, it looks pretty stable. Why? Because we're setting pushing to true. We're flushing it false every single frame before this. But then we're saying if we're actively colliding with the thing and we're, and our value matches up, then we should be pushing true. It is just not becoming pushing true. So let's see where else we're using pushing. In our render, if we're pushing, okay. Let's see how screwed up our render is for the tunic. Yeah, that's so bad. It's because it's not rendering. It's not thinking that we're pushing. So we're doing this wrong. So we're flushing it to false every single frame, and that means that we're either I know what it is, I think. Well, no. We're cycling through these pushables 4 different times, and we're checking if the value in the output list is matching the direction of the collision we're looking for. We're checking for if any of the values match, and we're setting our pushing to be equal to true if it does match. So if we had held down left would always be in our output list, and then we're always checking every pushable for a left collides with a map object, and the value is the actual object in our pushables table. So we should be turning true for our global player. Let's make sure. I mean, I know it's wrong because we're rendering the outfits wrong. So what's weird is what if we turn this off, does it affect anything? Because we used to have it. What did we delete to make it stop being pushing in the walk state? What did we change there? Oh, we do it here. If we collide with any object, we're player pushing true. Okay. Let's maybe go there, line 101 on player walk state. Let's just take a look a little closer. Oops. Yeah, we used to have player push here. And if we collide with any pushable, player push is true. So it's almost like this whole thing here is just so that we can update our push timer if we have an input. This actually seems wrong to me, because what we're doing here is we're incrementing our push timer, which should only be incremented if we're actually pushing, but just because we collide with an object doesn't mean we're pushing. We have to have the corresponding input to match. So I think I did this. Because if we don't do it there, then we would only do it for a legal push, right? And I think I did it here so that we didn't have to increment the push timer in every single input. So I kind of just said, well, if we collide with any of them, then go ahead and increment our push timer. So let's print up our push timer and see how wrong it is, because it should be very wrong. Not that it should be very wrong. I think it is very wrong based on how we did this. So if we take out this pushing and we have a push timer right here. I think push timer will count even though we're not pushing, is what I think. It doesn't. It only counts if we're pushing. But it's not that if we're pushing, it's that if we have an input and we're colliding with a map object. So yeah, because if we collide with a map object, and this is only in the walk state. Okay. So in the walk state, maybe what we do is all we do is put player pushing true here, and we just flush our pushing to false in the idle state. And we do. Okay, it's not that, it's just that. Ah, man. It's tough because the pushing, it isn't that. Man, why didn't what we did already fix it? Because it's not that we need to become pushing if we collide with any map object. It's that if we collide with a map object and our input in our output list, god damn it, that's correct. Like our output list is a list of all of our inputs and then canceled out for any contradictory inputs. So it's if we collide with a map object and the input, any of the inputs. You know what? Output list is only ever one value here. Because I think, yeah, see how we have the input list? Input list is actually output list, I want to say. Well, no, that is input list. I think we whittled down our output list to just one value. So maybe what we can do is just do, while we're cycling through our pushables, we just do another pass and say, if we only right collide with the pushable we're currently at, then if our output list at index 1 is equal to the string right, that's when we want to become pushing. Let's see. We're not rendering pushing, so I can't see. Okay, so now we're turning pushing true when we have a right input and we right collide, but it is not true when we're just walking up and down in the walk state and we're technically colliding with a pushable object. So that looks right to me. So let's see if we put on our tunic if we get any wrong pixels. Okay, that's looking right. See, oh, and look at that. See, oh. Shit, man. It's tough because when we render the tunic, we should be rendering whatever direction our player is, and I don't know if we're doing that. Because we should, yeah, like wherever we're rendering the normal one. Is that in the player class? Render. It's in the entity class. I don't like that because it should be just on the player. Okay, it might be in the walk state. Okay. So yeah, this, oh my god, this is a mess. So what we're doing is this is our base layer render for the character, so like player base layer. And then we're saying, well, if we're not falling, then we're going to check if we're pushing. And if we're pushing, render this, and it's from the texture blue push, which has all the pushes, so like all the frames, and we're pulling the quad from the same exact quad of our player. See, because we're snagging the player's current animation, which is what we're ultimately rendering here as the base layer. This is the one that's disjointed with the colored tunic overlay. So where do we say, you know, we're rendering this at the current frame. So why is it getting disjointed and disconnected from so either our pushing is incorrect. Oh, our pushing. Okay, this gets weird because if you look at the value of pushing, so look, if we equip a colored tunic and we go to push it, and as we're pushing it, we face down, it's not going to think we're pushing, because even though a push is initiated, our input doesn't match the direction that the pushable object is being pushed into, therefore it doesn't think it's pushing. So pushing will be false if we change our direction mid-push. No, it thought I was pushing true. and it was still wrong. And it looks like it was pushing. What angle was it pushing? Like what frame was it thinking we were on? It's got two kind of diagonal pixels, which towards the hand, which is which push. Yeah, it looks like it was a push down. Yeah, and that makes sense because I was inputting down. So I feel like this shouldn't be this difficult. I think all we need to do is we need to render the equipped tunic if it's player pushing, but if we're colliding with any pushable object, I think. Let's try that. Let's see if we can say, if we cycle through what is it? Scene view dot current map. I'm gonna screw this up, dude. I need to check where we did it earlier. It is scene view map row, map column. Okay, we cycle through our pushables. And if we're colliding with any of them, see, and I think this is wrong too. Well, no, because this is only in the walk state, so this should work. Basically, if we're colliding with any of them, then we want to draw the proper tunic that is equipped at the proper push frame. So if we collide with any of them, so it's going to be like this one up here, where we say if we collide with any of them. Yeah, if we collide with any of them, then we render our pushing frame at the same frame of our player animation. And we're not trying to ask. Okay, I don't know where the logic goes here, because we need to end here. We don't want to render this over our tunic if we're pushing. So we only want, oh my gosh, what is the other else in this line? We say if we're pushing, but we're not checking if we're pushing. Else, so if we're not pushing, go do here. So pushing isn't a good field for us to determine rendering based off of. It's just, yeah, because the different inputs can trigger, we could be facing a different way while we're technically pushing a different direction. So this is tricky. I think, this is, if we leave this a little note here that says this is if not pushing, but pushing isn't a good thing to use. And then else, what is this else? If we're not falling. Okay, so this is if we are falling. Yeah. Okay, so when do we want to render the normal tunic and not the pushing tunic? Only if we have inputs and we're not colliding with a map object. But Let me just see if we can get the push working. So like this else. Let's get rid of this real quick and just see if the pushing is looking right. It's rendering both. It's rendering the push right as well as the push down. So it looks more right, but it is still definitely wrong. I can see that it's rendering the push down as well as the push right. So it's better, but it is not right. So if we collide with, we're going to cycle through our pushables. If we collide with any of them, then we're going to render our character push. Then, okay, yeah, then we're rendering our normal player stuff over. Okay, so we only need to render this. See, and this is really tough. We only need to render this if we're not actively pushing an object, but we don't have... It's not that... Yeah, fuck. It's really strange, because if the pushing field means our player is literally in a push animation, it doesn't give us enough info to know whether or not we need to render an actual push sprite, because I think the pushing is determined on a... Yeah, like it's a complementary input as well as collision. So if we're colliding with a pushable and our input's right, then we're pushing. But while the boulder's being pushed, if we hold down, our pushing becomes false, and we're not in the pushing animation, and the pushing field is false. So how do we only render our colored tunics if we're not in the push state? You know, we have, and you know what, maybe that is an easier... It's not that we don't have a push state. We just have a, well, get current frame. Yeah, we don't have a push state. We just say render this thing at the current frame of our normal walking. Yeah, we don't have a push state. So I feel like I'm missing an easy way to do this, but I just can't wrap my head around it. The pushing looks right, at least, well, yeah. It just looks wrong. See, like that. See how we're rendering, we're rendering green pixels beneath us because we're technically colliding with a pushable object, but our pushing is false. And our pushing, that is so jacked up. I think we need to flush our pushing if we have more than one input, and then render this only if we're not pushing. So let's just put else if not player pushing. And then I think we, else if not player pushing, then where are we missing this? That should be fine. Else if not player pushing. Oh. Not else, just if. If not pushing, do this, else if falling. Okay. So let's see how this looks. Yeah, see, that's jacked up. So it is only rendering it if we're... See that? It thinks we're pushing because we were pushing, but our input was down. So I think we only want to render the... Well, and we're not even rendering the normal one incorrectly. It's rendering... Shit, man. I think if we take this out... Well, shoot, man, this is really weird. Okay, if we're pushing, we're going to render the push frame. Oh. And then we'll say else, which would be if not pushing, we do all our not pushing logic. Dude, why is it so hard? Why is it so hard? I'm gonna have to think about this and fix it. Why is it so hard? Because anytime, basically anytime we render the push character without the tunic, where do we render the character push without the tunic? I'm not seeing that. Because that would make it so easy, is just... Yeah, where do we render character push? Oh, it might be push left or push right. Okay. Where do we have the push right, push left renders? Is it in a change animation? Okay, so maybe we can say, we have a change animation. Do we have a get current animation? Get current frame. So it's a little confusing because we're setting our animation of our player here, and then we just render whatever animation we're at. But we might want to do, ideally we just say change animation to be push right, and if we're pushing right, go ahead and render our layer on top of that. But our animation only holds one animation at a time. It doesn't handle the stacking. So we might make a variable, an entity. See, and I don't want to decouple things so much. Like I was thinking we can just make a close entity, right? And the close gets changed just like an animation, and it renders just like an animation. If there's no close equipped, there's no animation equipped on the close layer, but we always render the close. That way we can kind of always render the same thing. I think there's got to be a way to kind of check which animation we're at. So let me look at the entity defs and we'll see if there's like a current, well, probably in the animation class. We have a current frame, but do we have a get current animation? We don't have like a current animation. So what does change animation do? Where is change animation even coming from? It's an entity method. We do have a current animation. Okay, we do have a current animation. And change animation assigns current animation to be whatever the name we pass into that method. So if we have a current animation for our entity, we should be able to just ask what the current animation is. And if it's push left, then go ahead and render the push left tunic for whatever one's equipped. So in our walk state, where we do some rendering here, instead of doing this if we're pushing or whatever nonsense, I might want to undo some of this stuff. If player pushing. Okay. Yeah. So I think instead of if player pushing, let's get rid of the if player pushing. We basically will change the player pushing to if the self.player.current animation is equal to one of the directional animations and not the pushing animations, which sucks because there's 4, right? There's like a walk left, walk right, walk down. So the current animation, I think we can say it's a string of walk right, just to test one direction, walk right. If our current animation is walk right, then go ahead and render not the push, push right. So look, if the animation that our character is at is the pushing one, then we render the push quad right on top of it if we're colliding with a map. Shit, I don't know if that'll work. Let me see. I feel like it won't even... Well, we're further than I thought. I thought it'd crash already. See, that is just so wrong. What's weird is it's almost rendering... Oh no, yeah, it's only rendering the walking one, so this isn't accurate. Current animation. Where do we do a current animation? And where does it stores it as a self.animation's name. So a self.animations at index name, if we look at our entity defs, we can see what that might be. Entity defs, where is it? What the heck? Okay, it'll be animations. It's in the dot animations. The entity is the player, so it'd be in the dot animations at the index of the thing. So it would be at current animation would be I can't think straight. Dot animations at index whatever. But if we look at our entity class, see, we're assigning that whole key with a name into the current animation. So what's being copied into the current animation is this entirety of a thing. So we can say Yeah, I think we might have to ask it in a square brackets. So like if the key that's being stored there is equal to a push right, maybe then it'll render our push right. No. Symbol near. Nope. Shit. This is, I feel like I'm onto something here, because we should be able to just, you know, we're rendering the correct pushing direction, period. Like we're rendering the correct pushing for the neutral base layer character. So all we need to do is render the appropriate frame for the tunic that we've got equipped on top of that current animation of pushing. So we shouldn't have to worry about if we're pushing or not. We shouldn't have to worry about that. We should just worry about if our tunic is equipped. Yeah, I think we can get rid of a lot of this. We just have to figure out how to ask a question about the current animation, because the current animation is a key value pair of a whole table. And I'm not exactly sure how to ask if the key of whatever's stored in this table is equal to something. Like, does it... I don't know. I don't know if we can do something like that. Like if what's in this table has a key of push right, then go ahead and render our character push tunic for whatever one is equipped. Yeah, it doesn't like this. I don't know how to do this, but I think we're on the right track now, and that'll be easier than changing it if we're pushing and checking those inputs. Like, as everything's right except for rendering the tunic over the push. So once we figure this out, I think we'll be in a decent spot. So I'll look into trying to figure that out, and then hopefully tomorrow we can implement the fix. So I'll do some thinking about that, but I guess we can say for now that this is just pushing. I don't even know what we did. Pushing field initializing, or pushing field true only on complementary inputs. Something like that. And we'll do this tomorrow, but hopefully we can figure that out. Let's see if we can raid out here. Here, we'll raid out. I don't know how you say it. St. Nine Pepper, Sergeant Pepper. He always has some cool stuff going on. Thanks for watching. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll try to move on from this. The good news is this is the hardest thing on our list, right? We front loaded all the hard stuff. So this should be the last of the hardest stuff, I'm thinking. And then I think it'll get a little easier from here.